start with this. How do you define authentic power? What is authentic power? Who do you think would demonstrate authentic power as a human being?
Oh, that's a really deep question. The first thing that I go to, Sheida, is authentic power. I think about true self, which is that essence of you. And we've talked about this before with parts and IFS, internal family system. True power and authentic power is something that comes from within and emanates inside out, rather than a force that you try and go out and achieve. So let me try to make this more practical.
You need your hands to talk.
Yeah, I do. The authentic power is really that core of who you are and having that essence radiate out from within. And in the context of relationships and couples, there's always a power dynamic at play, unconsciously or consciously. And a lot of that is as a result of gender roles and how we see ourselves and the power that we hold or the power that we don't hold or insecurities, et cetera, et cetera. And someone who holds authentic power in a relationship is, and it kind of bubbles down to the promises that we make to ourselves, the thoughts that we have, the promises that we keep to ourselves, and then the promises that we emanate out in our world. So whether that be a very simple, I'm going to go to the gym today, and having the authentic power of emanating from our true self and saying, that's really important to me because that's a value that I hold. Let me go to the gym, and then let me bring that power back into myself because I just went and achieved something that was meaningful to me. That energy that we have, that is what we then can bring into our relationships, intimate or otherwise. And when I hear those two words combined together, it's extremely powerful because of the fact that it's rooted in authenticity. We see far too many people who are inauthentic to their true self that do have power or are projecting this facade of power, and more of that is by force, not necessarily by the radiance that's from within. And so someone that comes to mind immediately, this is so not related to conscious couples, but Jane Goodall is a big someone who I admire very much. She's an environmentalist. She's so pro environment, and she is someone who has lived very authentically to herself and her essence in the world at large. She studied monkeys in their natural environment and how their behavior essentially relates to the natural world and from an environmental lens. And she was someone who stayed very true to her authentic self. And as a result of her work in the world, we have had so many profound awarenesses about human beings, the mammalian species at large, and the environment. And so random person that I just thought of, but I want to be true to my authenticity in that. And,
Jane
Goodall.
Jane Goodall.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
She has a masterclass too.
Yeah.
Sheida,
her work
look
is
at
amazing.
you. Look at you. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. Look at you.
Yeah.
I'm a masterclass. Like, I'm obsessed with masterclass.
Yeah, they're great. I haven't taken any masterclass, but I it's on my list for sure. What comes to mind when you hear that authentic?
So what came to me was Mufasa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mufasa.
Yeah. So
I don't know if tell me more.
So the movie Mufasa is a prequel to The Lion King. And it's one of our favorite movies of all time. And there's a character in that film that is... Okay, I'll share. Have you seen it?
Of course.
Okay, all right.
So
spoiler for anyone out there who hasn't seen it yet. You got to go see it, I think.
So good.
It's so good, yeah. But it's deep. It's deeper than it seems, right?
Yeah.
So there is this idea of earning through skill and merit authentic power through becoming more intelligent, stronger, working on yourself versus bloodline.
Ooh. Yeah.
So again, I'll be very brief about this, but I grew up in an environment, lost my father when I was 2, stepdad left when I was 14, kind of lost 3 families by the time I was 14. That's a whole nother story that I don't necessarily want to get into here because we don't have time. But anyone who says, well, I don't know if you know, but I'm actually so-and-so, such and such last name, yes, I can't even with that. Like, to me, what matters is who you are and what you are when no one's watching.
Yeah.
And in the movie Mufasa's character is someone who hunted with the women and wasn't the nap with the men, just sit there and let the women do everything. It's such a powerful film. And there's a character in that movie that represents force Just because he's bigger and stronger than everyone else, he tries to take over all the territories. He's the white lion in the film. And Mufasa, I think, represents authentic power. And then he meets the love of his life, and she helps him realize his power and actually own it. Because he doesn't actually want to be king.
Yeah.
He should be king, but he doesn't want to be. And he's like, no, please, no. And he grows into someone who earns being king. And I think earning being king and not wanting to be king is where real power actually is. And queen as well.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
queen
absolutely.
as well. Yeah.
Oh, I love how you guys like see these things in such meaningful and like deep, deep meanings into things. I love it. Why do you think that people search control rather than conscious love in relationships?
The first thing
Why
that comes to my mind is fear.
Yeah.
fear?
The first thing that comes to my mind is fear.
Scarcity.
It's fear and scarcity and survival, and we can talk about it on the biochemical level. We could talk about it just more so conceptually, but really when we look at it from my perspective at least, and what we've seen with couples is the couples that are, I mean, I'll give it a great example. We coach a couple who we've been working with them for 3 years now. And they're a couple that is literally in 2 weeks about to get married. That was at one point a dream that through the work that we had done with them, they never believed it was possible, but now they have jobs earning at a level that they never fathomed would be possible for them, which is amazing. And they've now bought a house, and right after the marriage, right, there's goals that they're going to be achieving. And we had sat down with them a couple of weeks ago, and we were asking them, checking in before the wedding, because we want to make sure that the couple is in love and making sure that their wedding is going to be a big day for themselves, not just everyone that's going to be showing up.
By the way, wedding planning,
Oh, it's brutal.
it sounds terrible to me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good time. But we were
like,
checking in.
Let's make sure you guys are in love by the time you get there. I mean,
Instead of eating each other's heads, ripping them off. It's like, whoa, how are you guys? But why I share that example is because we were checking in on the pulse of their relationship. And Sheida, they were like really freaking out. And when we really asked them, what's underneath that, it wasn't necessarily about all the logistics of the weddings, but it was the perception of the financial component of the wedding, meaning that their finances are in a worse place than they actually are. And so what that relationship talks coaching call did was really help educate them about rationality, educating them about how well they are in their finances and how much they actually do have things figured out, way more than their perception. So their money limiting beliefs were coming into the fold and robbing them of the beautiful present moments that they could be having with one another. And so I use that as the example because their perception, their belief about their financial abundance was so different than the actual reality. And so a lot of couples, I use that as the example because a lot of couples are very much in fear, scarcity mindsets that aren't actually of reality, that when you really peel back the curtain and inject rationality and look at objective truth, their perception is very off. And so I believe that it comes back down to fear and scarcity. And a lot of that has to do with our mindsets, our beliefs, and our emotional regulation.
So what happened with, and you don't know this because I coach the man in business as well. And they do relationship talks coaching with both of us as a 4-person session. And then also I coach him. Yeah. So we broke down, I said, how many people are coming to the wedding? And he said 180. And I said, okay, what do you think is the average gift? Yeah, right? And two guesses what size wedding we're going to have. It's not going to be that, I can tell you. 180? No. But anyways, he said 180 people. I said, okay, what do you think is the average price of the gift that you will receive? Because most people give gifts at wedding. He says, probably about 100. I said, okay, that's $18,000.
Right.
He's like, oh,
not doing the math. We're
going to be fine. I was like, brother, you got to crunch the fucking numbers, man. Pardon my French. But everything's numbers for me. So to Emilia's point, they were freaking out for no reason. Now,
and they weren't able to be a conscious couple because of the freaking out and the perceived scarcity and fear that they were in.
Yeah.
Keep going with
and also, so he didn't know about cash back, and he had $500 cash back sitting on his credit card. These simple, to Emilia's point, the perception was we're in trouble. And the reality is you guys are not only not in trouble, you guys are going to crush it. You're going to be fine. Now, for anyone who is actually in real scarcity, I have a client who just went to Cuba. They're having blackouts 22 hours out of every day. They only have electricity at 2 hours at a time. I mean, whoa.
That's not just perception.
Yeah, it's not just perception scarcity. Some people can't afford eggs, all kinds of stuff. So, thank goodness for where we live. But,
for sure. And if he was in a relationship, it would make it exponentially more difficult for him to be a conscious couple.
It's a she.
Oh, it's a she. Okay.
Yeah. But the point that we're making here is some people are in actual scarcity, but the majority of our scarcity, particularly in the US or other abundant countries, is in our head. And the way you get rid of scarcity is through your own skills, your own effort, your own intentions, and your own intelligence. I call it innovating out of the situation. So Emilia and I, when we get scarce, we usually work through it very quickly, fortunately, because what would have been a fight in past relationships never is. It's usually a healthy discord of, okay, now let's go execute.
Would you be able to give an example to make it more detailed? Is it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which one do you think would be good?
I trust you.
Okay. I'm trying to give one that might be relatable. This morning we had a healthy discord about on our walk about business. Can I give a tangible example of this? And we found out that two cycles are colliding. Okay, so Sheida, the email that you received earlier today from my email, I wanted Emilia to send that. She actually and I worked together to get the signed release form. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I had asked her to send it on my behalf, and Emilia wanted to not do that, and so I had to do it. And I said to her on the walk, I said, I think that you have an aversion to doing things for a man because of the generational traumas of women doing everything for men. Mm-hmm. And I had to vulnerably express that so that in the future we could be better business partners when I'm busy. And I had playfully said this. I said, I was picking up our dog Tucker crapped on the carpet. And I said, I have no problem doing the woman roles, but I also don't want you to have an aversion to supporting a man. And I feel up against that cycle. So Emilia is very frustrated with the sexism in the world. That is totally understandable. And what I'm sharing here is we had to have a conversation about how those frustrations are actually holding us back because we can support each other better. Yeah. And yeah, what's your take on that, though? So, I want to make sure.
But the tactical breakdown to the perception of scarcity was, my goodness, Sheida's not going to feel really supported, and we're really excited for this interview. Yeah. And we don't want her to feel that way because we're so excited to be here and we're grateful to be here and we love speaking with her. And so there was a little behind the scenes that no one would ever really know about in our relationship, where what the perception is versus the reality, us working through that perception, that perceived scarcity in real time on our walk was, number one, we're walking. So that is a side-by-side type dialogue where we have two different perspectives and we're sharing those perspectives, where most couples would be kind of in a room standing at each other fighting and just trying to be heard and not necessarily trying to hear what the nuances that is coming out from Alan's concern or my concern in those two cycles that are colliding. And so just by walking side by side allows the emotional regulation skill sets to be activated, so that if we are in perceptive scarcity, which we were in at the very beginning of that walk, we're actually able to calm down and understand and unpack, oh, there's actually more concerns that are underneath this that have to do with our teams, that have to do with technical components, that have to do with anything that's getting in the way of us being able to contribute and make a beautiful episode with Sheida. And all of those unpacking of layers have to get unpacked. But what we said, I know it's not certainly relatable, but what we did say when we got home was most people would just be fighting. Yeah. And we ended in gratitude that walk, and it was an hour-long walk. And by the end of the walk, it was going from high escalated of fear and scarcity, not maybe as much of a conscious couple as we would really like to hold our everyday standard with. And literally by the 5-minute mark within our walk, we got down into a co-regulated state where we were understanding and exploring together what were the concerns or perceived fears or scarcity underneath that. And then by the end of our walk, we were like, thank you so much for having the emotional regulation and maturity of an adult to really work through and address those concerns that we both have, because those concerns are coming from someplace, and to not hear one another and not really take a second to really hear the underlying scarcity and vet it up against, is this rational, or is this a pain body of the past that's coming up in real time when it comes to collaboration? So yeah, not super relatable, but in contrast to people who might not be willing to work through that, a conscious couple will work through that, and in gratitude and sincerity.
So real quick, to summarize, the cycle that she was concerned about was that my EA did not effectively do the release form. Emilia's unconscious scarcity or fear, to go back to the original point, was that she's going to end up having to pick up the pieces of my team's incompetence. Okay, that was her concern.
Yeah.
My concern is that she is going to be reluctant to help me in a pinch because of not wanting to be my secretary, quote unquote, because of all the generational trauma around fair play. Have you ever seen the documentary Fair Play?
No, I'm afraid no.
It's so good.
So
it's so good.
We have to mention at least a little bit of that for context for anyone that does tune into this.
Go ahead, look.
So Fair Play, and I'm forgetting the woman who actually wrote it. So
it's a book and a documentary.
Yes.
About men and women in relationships and the unfair, unconscious expectations about a man's time versus a woman's time and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so the high level of that, there's this woman who wanted to bring these dynamics, these gender roles that add to more scarcity or add to more fear or add to more frustrations in relationships that don't actually help them become a conscious couple. She studied a ton of different couples, and what she learned was that the perception of what, quote unquote, a man will do in the household just for like work or whatnot, it's much higher than their reality of what they're actually contributing in the household. Yeah. And she showed the women's perspective of, if you were to ask the woman, how much is the woman actually doing in the household amongst having a full-time job and taking care of kids and taking care of all these things? So all of the natural, quote unquote, things that it requires to have a household or a relationship and children run effectively. If you ask the women, the men do less of that work than their perception. And so she really highlighted in that documentary and brought out some really poignant points that are really critical, and especially now the conscious couples that we're seeing come in that have a very hyper-attuned eye and concern, just like you literally saw with Ellen talking about me as a millennial. I'm not interested in having my partner have this perception that they're this king of the household, but yet being extra burdened as a woman, and therefore as a result not being able to be empowered or develop my career, and just be totally burdened by a household, by a family, by the quality of the relationship. And so fair play is this concept that goes down to a core belief system, which is that men typically have this belief that their time is more inherently valuable than a woman's, and women have had to adopt that belief system so that they pick up the pieces. And so that little secretarial moment that I was up against my protector, and I shared with Alan of, I recognize if I'm not holding that line, then how do we navigate this as a conscious couple? Because I have generational trauma that's forcing this womanhood role into picking up all the little bite-sized pieces. But in our relationship,
she's
that's
like,
so
you
not
have an
fair.
executive admin for a reason.
Do your job.
Yeah.
But long story short, incredible film, documentary, and the research is the most important poignant point, because what happens when you have that belief system in a relationship as a conscious couple, if you have a core belief that your time is more valuable than your partner's, that will inherently contribute to so many spin-offs of so many issues that I can't even begin to peck away at, but I'm happy to if we want to.
So the guys in the documentary thought they contributed 80%. They really were contributing 20%.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the punchline of what Emilia just unpacked. You watch the interview where the guy's like, I probably do about 60, 70%. And then the data shows they do almost nothing around the house. And for the ladies out there, in the past, that statistically might have made some sense. But now that you all have careers and empowered women, like, it's so obvious to me at this stage that the data and the numbers show that women are doing far more than men in the household and in career now.
Yes.
And that's what she's afraid of. And I'm like, honey, I'll pick up shit, like whatever you need. Like, I'm not, this is
the most supportive partner.
Like,
and just for
I'll
context,
send emails on your behalf anytime you want. Like straight up, right? But that's, so it's just one of those things. But this is one of those things that it took an hour-long walk for us to realize that these patterns were happening.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, we were like, okay, we get it. Software updated. Let's rock and roll.
And we had a ton of little nuances of what are we going to do differently? Why did this happen? Why did we get so reacted in this moment? Yeah. Why does that matter so much to us? And back to the authentic power, we move towards like what is most important to our true selves when it comes to showing up as a conscious couple with one another and as a conscious relationship in the world, right? Because we have this deep core desire to try to help more couples become conscious and not just let that programming, that fear, that scarcity, that lack of self-awareness in those moments just drive them off a cliff. Because like I said, in anyone else's world, most people would just be fighting at each other's necks and I'm right and you're wrong. And that's it. And that would just be the seed of contempt and resentment. And that would just build this couple to start growing apart rather than together. And we're better off.
You said this earlier this morning. You said most people would have thought, well, we're not meant for each other.
Yeah.
Instead of, they would have let the seed of we're not meant for each other to have been and then grow, instead of just working through it and go, oh, this is your past and my past. Collide. So we're not meant for each other. We actually dug underneath it and get off autopilot. That's the theme. Like,
get off autopilot.
Couple, get off autopilot. You gotta get off autopilot.
Gotta.
Oh, wait, I really appreciate how you explained it. That was beautiful. So you get all this training, you get all these skills, everything that you need to do in order to have a wonderful conscious relationship. And then boom, something happens, you're triggered. And then all the training goes out the window. And then you find yourself back in where you started. And then you go, wait a minute, all these workshops that I've done, all these trainings that I've gone through, why am I still acting like this? How would you explain that?
Yeah, well, you know how to, from a neuroscientific perspective, you get hijacked is what she calls it, or what it's called. I noticed it this morning. I was hijacked, and I made sure that I wasn't at her. I was like what I call tea kettling, which is sharing frustrations out into the world instead of at her. Because I'm 6'2", she's much smaller. She's like 5'3".
I'm 5'3", I'm a little mini.
And I'm not gonna like come at her. I'm gonna share frustrations into the world. It's tea kettling, like, pss, pss, pss. And that I noticed myself being like, yeah, but, and I don't point, none of that. One time I went and sat on the floor because you get frustrated and you revert back to, I grew up in a household with a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
And Emilia and I have never fought. We've never slammed a door. We've never stormed out. We've never walked away.
So
it's been same. And it's more because of her than me. One time she was like, forehead. I was like, oh my God.
It's literally like a tea kettle. Imagine like this spewing out of your head, the energy and the anger and the frustration.
Like, I don't really know if I like where this is headed.
The tonality is starting to get a little aggressive.
I'm gonna go sit down.
But to that, it is hijacking. So our emotions play such a big role, right? We want to talk about emotions. Let's talk about even breaking that down.
But you have to recognize it when it's happening.
1,000%. And most of us don't have what's called attunement to our own emotional state. Nice. So attunement is when there is an emotion which happens in split seconds. Emotions are energy that's moving through our body, for lack of better words, right? And I'm going to illuminate the theory of emotions that I hold for context for anyone. We construct our emotions.
This hair blocking me from seeing you. There you go. It's been like this the whole time.
Nice. Yeah. I love that.
It's like, I want to see you. It's like
keep me from seeing you.
It happened.
Yeah, it's usually she puts it on you.
Maybe I'll do this.
It's so cute. You don't have to.
I'll do it for you.
It does help.
Perfect.
Okay.
So
it's like a wall, you know?
So the theory of emotion. So for decades, emotional scientists, and this is always depending on what emotional scientist you actually refer to, this could be quote unquote wrong to someone else. But what I will share is that from the standard in the science that I currently hold at this current date, what we know about emotions is that we do have the ability to construct emotions. Emotions are constructed based on our thoughts, based on the physiological responses that we have in our body. So this is where the energy feels hot or cold, or
based
whether
on inputs too and the environment.
Yep, based on inputs in the environment. And so based on how our body is reacting in a split second every single moment, that then gets perceived by our brain and by all of the quote unquote perception centers in our brain. And so emotions come up and happen in split seconds as physiological responses. How our brain interprets that emotion or energy in motion usually is interpreted through this lens of our belief system. So our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about other people, and our beliefs about the world. And so those belief systems, or also referred to as schemas, dictate the color to which we experience our emotions. Meaning, if you might have butterflies in your stomach, for example, you could interpret that or perceive that as anxiety, because what is that butterfly? That is maybe a tightening of the chest. Maybe there's movement happening within your gut. Maybe there is an increase of heart rate activity, and your brain is perceiving that because of your belief system in that current moment as, let's say, anger or frustration or nerves, when in reality what that emotion really could be signaling is the fact that you're just working through some lunch that you ate earlier. But in relationships, most people are not attuning to what their physiological responses are operating within in their bodies, and they don't know the belief systems that they have that are coloring their perception of every single interaction and engagement with the world and their partners. And so they'll have a moment like that where their partner all of a sudden says something, and before we even know it, in split seconds, we go from I'm listening to my partner, I'm loving on my partner, to all of a sudden a pain body, if you will, gets triggered. A memory gets recalled in our brain, the core belief that our partner doesn't respect our time and they don't believe our time is valuable because of all of the memories and traumas that we had.
100%.
And then at that time, our central nervous system literally takes over and hijacks us to then go into shut down the prefrontal cortex.
Syndrome fucking
activate the amygdala, activate all the centers of our brain structures that then go into a fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or all the other different in-betweens that happen. And in real time, all what comes out of your mouth is blah, 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 blah. And you're not conscious of what that's going to do or the impact that that's going to have.
So you have to recognize when that's happening.
Yeah.
And even in this interview, her and I are trying to articulate some very complex things. I'm having to, in real time, notice my emotions and breathe. Because I want her to finish her thought, but I also want to transcode. So what I mean by transcode is, how do we make this land for people who haven't studied neuroscience for a decade?
And the multidisciplinary studies that we've done.
Exactly. Because I think that's the hardest part of our job, Sheida, is we understand the complexities of all this: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, crocodile brain, mammalian brain, prefrontal cortex, the emotions, how it all works. See, taste, touch, smell, feel, believe, all this stuff. We know how it all works because we've studied it. We suck at communicating it, in my opinion. Like, genuinely.
That's why I love Inside Out. Just watch Inside Out 1 or 2.
Awesome.
You'll be good.
Mufasa, Inside Out, and Fair Play do all our work for us. No, but ultimately, I have an acronym that I think is really of value to make this tangible, because we've done 50 relationship talks events with our conscious couples community from all over the world. 50 months in a row. And I've learned so much. Most of it is stuff you already knew, but
I learn where people aren't aware of. Yeah.
So she's been studying this stuff since she was 12.
Yeah.
So she loves this stuff, which is awesome. And my job here is to not only learn it and understand it, but also to share it in a way that can be given to someone who hasn't been studying it since they were 12.
And when they have an emotion, be like, oh, that's that emotion.
Nice. And
not have to fuse with it, not have to have it hijack their system and literally like get them into a behavior that then all of a sudden they wish they never did, or said words that they never should have said to their partner, because you cannot take back words, you cannot take back actions, and that becomes the quote unquote nail in the coffin of your relationship, or the seeds that you plant in the garden of the we.
Yeah, so the acronym that I use, that I've given to all our conscious couples, is HALT. So when you're in a negative state, you have to halt. So the acronym is HHALLT. If you are hungry, horny, angry, lonely, late, or tired, you are in a very unresourceful state. If you are all 6 of those, go take a nap immediately. And I need to laugh at that.
I love that.
But the truth is I was intense this morning. She had just gotten up, and I had already done 3 hours of emails, and right, and I was picking up shit off the carpet.
Yeah, that was
and so I was in an intense energy, and she had just gotten up, and she was all love, bug, snuggles, and I was like frustrated in that moment. So I have to halt and not ruin the relationship. I have to take a deep breath. Let's go for a walk. All is good. It's not a big deal. I know what's happening here, and I think she does too. But let's just go for a walk and let's talk it out. So an hour later, we're not only back in love, but now our future is set up for more success.